Welcome back to another episode of Creature Madness. This episode's host is me, Gus, from Askewed Reviews. Now, if you don't know what Creature Madness is, this is a creation by my friend Matthew over at Horror Madness, who decided to create a movie club where each week we all watch the same creature feature film, and then each of us does our own review on that movie. Now, aside from myself and Matthew, the other members of this club are Karen, Ryan, Amariah, Bambi, Ashley, and Jen. And speaking of Jen, it was her turn to choose the feature for this week. And she chose the 1990 film Shakma, directed by Tom Logan and Hugh Parks. So this was an animal attack creature feature that I had never actually even heard of before. Let me tell you about the concept to see if this is something that you want to check out for yourselves. This film seems to take place in a small medical school. Our main characters are the students along with their professor. Now, with the group of students that we're focusing on for this story, they're currently working on experimental aggression inhibitors. So some of their experiments do involve animal testing. Now, the students in this story are Sam, Tracy, Gary, Bradley, and Richard. And of course, there is their professor, Professor Sorensen. The group's most recent experiment is on a baboon named Shakma, which is where we get the title from. Now, the experiment does not go correctly, so it's unfortunately decided that it's best if they just put Shakma down. After sedating him, one of the students believes that he's injected Shakma with something that will cause him to pass away. Now, normally in this situation, they would cremate the body. However, though, the professor wants to do an autopsy but just doesn't have the time to do it today, so they just leave the body in a separate room for the time being. The reason that the professor doesn't have time for this is because he's been planning something fun for his students to do that evening. What he's done is designed a fun game for all of them to be able to participate in while LARPing. Now, if you don't know what LARPing is, that's live action role play. If you've ever participated in Dungeons and Dragons where it's a tabletop game, it's similar to that, but instead of actually just sitting at a table, you're actively moving around and physically participating in things. So, what they've done with this scenario is the entire building will be locked down, different rooms will have clues and puzzles, and everyone will be walking around with walkie-talkies trying to solve all of this and figure out the game master or the professor's game. So as the game starts and the students begin moving throughout the building, a huge issue comes up as Shakma did not actually die. In fact, what was injected into him was a serum that actually caused him to become more aggressive. So while all of these students are playing for fun, Shakma is playing for keeps, as he is going after each and every person that he runs into. So first of all, I'm always going to be interested in watching an animal attack horror movie. I don't know why, I always really like those. They're definitely one of my favorite genres. With this one, I feel it definitely takes a little bit to really get into the movie. And even then, I don't think it's an amazing film, but it definitely is fun and has an interesting premise. There are also a couple of familiar faces in this movie. You have Roddy McDowall as the professor, which is definitely kind of funny, and I feel like they did this on purpose. McDowell is very famously known for appearing in the original Planet of the Apes movies. So, of course, having a film with a killer primate, it makes a lot of sense to have him do an appearance in that. There's also the two main actors as well in this film, where you have Christopher Atkins, who you probably know from The Blue Lagoon, and Amanda Weiss, who you more than likely know from the original A Nightmare on Elm Street. So the two things I enjoyed the most about this film were one, no one is safe. I always enjoy when a horror movie is willing to put everyone on the chopping block. Two, the animal actor for this, the baboon, which in real life is named Typhoon, did a really good job or was trained very well for this. Now, mind you, there are some moments when you can tell that it's not actually a baboon and it's just some sort of like puppet or whatever they created for it. But most of the time, it really is just that baboon. Now, some of the things that I wasn't as big of a fan of for this film, I definitely have to mention the acting. It's not terrible, but it's also not great. Another thing is, and you've definitely heard me say these things before when I review horror movies, I really don't like dumb decisions. Bad decisions make sense. When characters make dumb decisions, it really bothers me because it's just like, how stupid are these people? And there were definitely quite a few in this film. And lastly, as I did kind of mention before, it took me a bit to really get into the story. But all in all, this was a fun watch. I'm really glad I finally got to see it. And at least for me on my scale, I actually am going to give this one a 3 out of 5, but it was pretty close to being a 2. Now, if you'd like to check this one out for yourselves, it's currently streaming for free on Prime, Tubi, and Roku. Now, as a quick spoiler warning, this is the part of Creature Madness where I go a little bit more in depth about the creature that appears in the film. Mind you, there's probably not a whole bunch I'm going to be revealing here because it's pretty self explanatory, but you can always feel free to go watch the film first and then come back and rewatch this. So let's talk about the creature from this film. First off, this is, of course, a baboon, but if you didn't know, this is a Hamadryas baboon, which I may or may not be saying that correctly. I apologize if I'm not. But baboons in general can be very vicious and really strong. Primates in general are super strong for their size. Now, of course, due to the injection that it received, it becomes even more aggressive. So it is scratching, clawing, biting, and this thing also is banging its way through doors, throwing glass around the room. I mean, it's just going absolutely bonkers. I hope you enjoyed my review of Shakma. And if you'd like to see what everyone else ends up doing for their reviews on this, just look up the hashtag Creature Madness.